Hello, my name is Norman and I need a pencil holder. That's it. Thanks for watching. I'm kidding, of course there's a lot more to it than just 3D printing a pencil holder. We got some finishing touches to make, definitely. So let's get started. So let's have a closer look at the model first. So I think you will recognize this. This is from The Thing, it's called, from the Addams Family, or also from the new Netflix show Wednesday. Yeah, it's a dead hand stitched together, basically. And some genius guy just hollowed out the end so that you can put pencils inside. Pretty nice. I'll link the file down below in the description. You will notice that this thing is huge. Like you know, people tell me, at least, I have huge hands. However, looking at this dwarfs my hands. Actually, I had to downsize the model to make it fit on my build plate because I have a Prusa Mini. So I had to downsize this, I think, to like 90%. And this resulted in hard to tell, maybe you can see here. You can see here this very thin wall. There are actually holes. So this wall would have been very thin to begin with, but because I downsized it, we actually have like real holes here where the you know, where the thickness of the wall was thinner than 0.4 millimeters. Also, you may or may not notice the model is very low poly. You can see it here. The polygons, I don't know what happened to them, but there are a lot of them missing. I think we are going to smooth out the entire hand so that the polygons won't be visible anymore. So, you know, it looks more like the real thing. Well, I actually planned on using white PTG again and this 3D doodler to doodle it up, but unfortunately I think it's broken. The temperature stays around 20 degrees, that's the room temperature. But it's probably fixable, but not today. Well then, the only alternative I can think of at the moment for things I have here at home is this wood filler and something out of my glue and tape box. The plan, I don't know if it works, is going to be to actually tape something from the inside so that we match the contour, and then just use some of this wood filler to fill up those holes here. As good as new. So I'm pretty sure this stuff is not structural, like it's made to fill up holes and cracks, but not to actually fill up this type of holes. Yeah, let's see how it holds up. And yeah, we need very little, so 2 small lines of that, and 1 goes here. So luckily we're gonna paint it later, so it's not the color mismatch doesn't really bother me at the moment. Well, actually I see a lot of extrusion problems. So while I have this filler, I'm just gonna fill them up as well. Still a lot left, right? Would have probably been smart to wear rubber gloves, but you know, here we are. So, it says 3 hours of cure time, about, give or take. So, yeah, we're gonna wait 3 hours.
20 minutes later.
Alright, nobody is that patient. So, what I did, I waited like 4 minutes, then I started preparing the next step, which is involving the Dremel. And for that, I needed this yarn to explain what I'm doing. And when looking for this, I found the poly clay. So this is way more suitable for filling up those gaps. I still had this from the Aqualove Avonia. Yeah, this thing is the real thing. That's really good. Now we have it, so we can use it later. We're gonna use it later. That's a good thing. Long story short, yeah, 20 minutes have passed. I think that's gonna be enough. I mean, it's still tacky, but is gonna be enough for me to continue working. So I think it would be really cool if those stitches here would be like real fabric, like stuff like that, instead of plastic. So what we're going to do, we are going to take the Dremel and this beautiful carving bit in the front and carve out all those stitches so that we can replace it later on with the fabric here. That's the idea. So that went pretty well. And I think it's actually would have been a lot better to wait until it's not tacky anymore, because I'm making a lot of dust, but I don't care. I'm setting it off later anyway. Yeah, that works. And then later we're gonna put in this very thick thing, and it's gonna look really cool. Yeah, let me just repeat this step like a couple of bazillion times, and then I'm gonna come back to you. All right, so the next step is drilling holes at the end of each stitch. I'm gonna explain it later. For now, all you need to know is that we're going to take this 3mm, maybe. All you need to know for now is that we're going to take this 4mm drill bit here and drill some holes.
Day 2.
We've got a little problem here. It's still tacky. I don't know what's wrong, but I think I have an approximate idea. I don't think it's the mixture, the dosage of those two components, because I actually used the leftover wood filler here to glue up this side table. It cured fine within the promised 3 hours. But this guy here, I don't know. So yesterday evening I noticed that it didn't cure. Well, I thought if it's not hard, just add another coat of hardener. Unfortunately, it didn't quite help. Turns out wood filler isn't very good at filling plastics. I think because the plastics dissolved a tiny bit, it prevented the agent to cure properly, stuff like that, basically. And that kind of sucks. I think I'm just gonna continue with the build and see how much it's gonna bother us. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this model here is kind of low poly. So because we're gonna sand down the entire surface, I think we can get rid of the tacky bits, or most of them at least, and the ones which remain won't bother us once we paint it, hopefully. The only thing which remains is of course the holes here. That's the whole reason why we use the wood filler, right? I don't know how it's gonna hold up. Probably it won't. I think I'm just gonna sand it down and then we're back to square one, and then let's see what we can do, right? For the cleanup, I'm going to use these Scotch-Brite abrasive wheels and of course my trusty Dremel. Okay, you notice I changed the mask because this one does have eye protection. I usually don't like it because, well, I have to take off my glasses, but in this case I think it's better having bad sight than no sight at all. Let me just clean this for a second. So just look at it. Oh my goodness, it feels so smooth. I'm really relieved that sanding it down not only made it look a lot less low poly, but also now we can work with it again because the surface is not tacky anymore. Yeah, so next step is adding more details again. I tried using a file, but I think for the scars it's a lot better to use the hot knife, because it's gonna push away the material. So the details which these Scotch-Brite wheels took off especially where the skin is pushed against each other, the scars. Yeah, at these places. Sorry, I'm cleaning off the hot knife from previous 3D prints. At these places, yes, I think it's better to push in the hot knife so that the skin is going to push back. Okay, we're almost done with the detailing. Yeah, you could probably spend all day detailing, but at one point you're gonna stop or finish. Yeah, the last step is actually closing up the cuts which I just made, partially at least, because I went a little bit too eager. And at some points we can see the infill, which is no bueno. This time we're gonna use the proper putty. I realized it also does say no plastics, but last time I worked with it, also with PETG in black, it did not dissolve the piece, and also, you know, it cured as expected. I hope this one will be fine, even though with white PETG. White PETG is kind of weird, or white filament in general, because the plastics, they are not white, so to make them brighter than they naturally are, they add some agents, and usually that means that your print quality is going to suffer, extrusion problems, stringing and all that. With white filaments, everything is a little bit wonky. So let's just hope that this one is not going to react with the additives of white filament, and yeah, fill up those holes which went a little bit too far.
Day 3.
All right, putty is cured, and then a little sanding, little primer, and here we are. Hand is finally ready to be painted. And for that, we are going to use acrylic paint. This is just regular, very cheap, affordable acrylic paint, and a tray, which I 3D printed a while ago. You can tell I mismeasured the holes here, so I had to enlarge them by hand, but you know, it works, so I'm fine. And of course, paint brushes and water to dilute the paint. Stay hydrated, guys. So when looking at the source material, the thing is actually surprisingly alive. I almost planned on painting it like, I don't know, like dead flesh, you know, grayish pale tone. But looking at the source material, most of the images are black and white, of course. But when looking at screenshots from the Netflix show, it's actually not that bad. Looks almost like a normal hand, right? So for that, we're gonna need white, pink, I guess, or skin tone. A little bit of brown. And maybe pink. I think. Actually, thinking about it, I'm also gonna use a sponge to apply the paint. So skin tone is gonna be the main tone, then add a little bit of white. And a little bit more white. A lot more white. Yeah, we're getting there. So I think I'm gonna skip the brown instead. What I learned in art class 20 years ago. Add a little bit, just a little bit of green to your skin tones. For some reason. I don't know how that works, but it's gonna make it a lot more. Yeah. All right, we're getting somewhere. Now I need more white and more skin tone again. I think the white color is very bad because I just add it and it just gets, I don't know, it doesn't get white. Just see, basically nothing happens. Yeah, pigments, they're gonna tell you when they're cheap. So we're just gonna give it a shot. I think it looks alright just compared to my skin color. I don't know if we're gonna use water with the sponge. Cool thing is this thing has a hero side and a not so prominent side, so we can actually practice at the bottom and see how it looks. Maybe I should have used white primer. Yeah, it's gonna get very dark. You know what? I'm gonna do it. Sponge time. Back from a dinner with the family. I think, yeah, paint is all dried up, which is nice. So you guys may remember me complaining about using gray primer instead of white primer, but actually turns out as an homage to Netflix, I decided to ditch the original source material and do my own thing. Well, I decided not to replicate real skin tones. Instead, I really liked how the gray primer is shining through the skin tones, and at some spots, I don't know, it's really hard to tell on camera, it's very nuanced. At some spots, it's I actually washed out the skin tones to make the primer bleed through the top coat. It looks a little bit more pale and undead at some spots. I like it. I like how it turned out. And here is another close-up at the skin. You can see how well the sponge texture actually worked. I think the texture it leaves just looks a lot better than with the brush. So for the next step, we are actually going to add a little bit more paint again. We will paint the scars, and I think we're just gonna add a little bit of red and maybe some black, brownish tone. I don't know, we're gonna find out. All right, I'm not mixing this puddle here completely. That means that every time I take a little bit of color and refill my brush, I'm gonna have a different shade. I think that's gonna make it a little bit more interesting. Again, I'm just gonna start with the underside, the practice side. If I mess this up, nobody's gonna see it. So the paint job is finally done. I used a little bit of diluted black paint to highlight the low spots of the paint and give it a little bit more of color variation. And I used the remaining dirty water here to darken the thread. And also, yeah, you notice I've been very busy. I didn't like the sheen of the acrylic paint, so I used some of that clear coat, matte clear coat, to just, you know, tone it down a little bit so that it gets a really nice semi-gloss matte finish. So the next step is adding the stitches. Yeah, I did one practice stitch already. It looks really good, way better than I expected. So for that, we're gonna need scissors. That tiny screwdriver here, it's from a watchmaking kit. And to attach the screws, we're gonna use some glue. You can see here that white spot. This is actually where I got a little spill of the glue. I tried to wipe it off with the screwdriver, frankly, but yeah, it dissolved the paint again. So chemistry is again working against us, but I'm just gonna make sure that if I spill the glue, I just don't wipe it off and let it dry. That's it. It's the underside, it's the practice side, so it won't matter that much. I'm just gonna start with this one here. So first thing I do is taking the glue and give a dab here and in the middle. So now I take the screwdriver here and spread the glue inside the hole and in between. And then I take a very, very short piece of thread. We just need a very short piece, like 2 or 3 centimeters. Here we go. Then take the screwdriver and push it in. One done, a lot more to go. Yeah, that's gonna take forever.
One eternity later.
I really like how this thing turned out. Just look at the different textures of the skin and the flesh and the string. It just ties everything together. So if you like this build, be sure to let me know down below in the comments. I learned so many things with this one and I hope you did too. So see you in the next one. Bye bye.